Okay, this I hope will be the last in the Intro to Research series. So where have we got to? We've just dealt with your conclusions and recommendations and taking your pen off the script metaphorically. Have you finished? Well, not necessarily, as I've been saying before, there are other things to do. So I thought I would give you a bit of a recap here of the start to finish process. I'm not going to go over again the writing element of your rapport de stage, your thesis, your memoir. That's up to you, and I've talked about that ad infinitum in the previous videos. This is about trying to give you something step by step to follow at each stage of the way. So number one, you are in M2, you've passed semester one, you're going out into semester two, into your placement internship, supervised work experience. Well, you need a prof referent, a tutor for your placement and to look after you in the development and delivery of your report. Well, some courses will allocate you a tutor. Some courses will say, well, make contact with a tutor that you think you could work with, who could bring something to your project. And that's great. In fact, either way is entirely appropriate. Our job is not to be an expert in the content field that you're going into. If you're doing something on search engine optimization, I don't know that much about it. But I do understand the process of research and I can apply that to it. I wouldn't mind if somebody came up with a project on the subject of marine biology, which I know zero about at all, because I understand the process of how to go through research. And that's what my job is, to help you through the process. So if you're given the opportunity to go and make contact with somebody you think could be a good tutor for you, you get on together, you relate to their teaching, their person, their personality, etc. Fine. But if you don't get somebody who has the same experience of the workplace as you will have on your placement, don't worry. We're not there to know about the content. We're there to know and to help you through the process. So, second point, read the handbook, then read it again until you've got it. It's in there. The handbook is there to help you. It gives you, in some cases, very specific guidance to follow. Not because we want to be a pain, but because we want to show you what we believe is the best way of doing it. So given we've gone to all that trouble to help you, it'd be a good idea if you actually read it and realize that if we're giving you details about how we're going to assess you, how we're going to mark your project, you can apply those criteria to yourself as you're working and to your finished product. So please, please, please look at the handbook. Sometimes we're giving you regulations, how many pages, whether you should use footnotes or the Harvard referencing system or whatever it is. The point is, we've published that, therefore we are bound by it. And if you don't do what it says, there's going to be some kind of penalty. So make sure you know what's in your handbook, your livret. It's essential. Okay, so you start in your company. We suggest that you try to keep some kind of notebook, electronic or whatever, it doesn't matter. But sometimes when you're going into a company and you ask questions that nobody else does, why do you do it that way? Why don't you use this? It would be so much simpler, so much quicker, so much cheaper. The problem is that so many people inside the company don't ask those kind of questions. They do what they do because that's always what they've done, and they're always told to do what they've always done. In fact, few people question things after a while. They are in the company box. So when you go in and you start asking yourself innocent questions, why does it happen like that? Why don't we do this? Surely the company ought to consider that. Why don't I have this information coming to me? It could be so useful, but no one seems to want to provide it. All of those little questions could add up to a really interesting type of problematique. In other words, a question that you want to answer, a problem that you want to solve, or a hypothesis that you want to test. So keep yourself a notebook, and then just doesn't have to be chapters long, just little notes about things, and then look back after a month, 6 weeks, 2 months, and you may well see a pattern. There may well be certain things that continue to emerge that don't make sense, that could be so much better if only someone, you perhaps, did something. So keep that, because it might help you come up with ideas for your title. Of course, you need then to think about a draft title. And in my previous lectures, I've given you some specific information on how to address and articulate a title. Follow them. Write down your title. Write down your aims and objectives, the way I have also suggested to you, recommended to you, insisted, in fact, that you do. And write down those aims and objectives in such a way that they cover all of the title. Send those to your tutor with an idea of how you think you're going to go about this project, how you're going to go about researching it maybe. And then once the teacher's got that, get in contact with them and see what they think. At this point, they're either going to say to you, this is never going to work because da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, or I can foresee a little bit of a problem here. Have you thought about that? Or brilliant, looks absolutely fabulous, really impressive, this is going to work, green light. At some point, you need your tutor to be confident that you've got something that you can do and you can deliver and is likely to be successful. But unless you give your tutor sufficient information about what you're doing, that's never going to work. So on my website, under the Stagiaires tab and Advice, you will find, if you scroll down, a project proposal form, proposition form. That gives us the type of information we need to give you good feedback on your ideas. Use it. Please do not ever say to us, can I do something on search engine optimization or marketing in my company? The answer is bound to be, I'm sure you could, but what exactly do you want to do? So to enable us to help you, you have to help us by giving us some information. If we've given it the green light and we say, yep, think this is great, then you need to discuss that with your boss. Not just, I've been thinking of this. You need to think from your boss's point of view, what will he and the company get out of this? What's the win situation for them if they give you a little bit of time, give you access to people, let you use their postal franking system and envelopes to do your research, maybe give you Thursday afternoons off to develop your research, etc. What do they get back? What is going to be at the apex? What are you going to produce at the end which is going to help them? Is it going to help them with their efficiency? Is it going to help them with economy? Is it going to help them with effectiveness? How exactly is it going to help them? I have a strange expression in English, which is WIFM. What's in it for me? Your boss is thinking this. What do I get out of it? How does it make my life easier if you do this? You need to think about that win situation. And you need to do this fairly early on. Otherwise, your boss might form an idea that he wants you to take or she wants you to take, but you really are not liking it at all. Your heart is not in it. Better you come up with something you want to do. So once we and your workplace boss have given you the thumbs up, the green light, I suggest that you start writing the introduction right away. What is the introduction? It's, what is your title? Explain the title. Explain what it means. Explain why you've chosen it. Explain why you feel in your particular situation, with your interest, with your knowledge, with your access to information, you can do this topic justice and give them an idea of what the end point is going to be. You need to be able to say what the aims and objectives are, to break down your title into a number of bite-sized chunks, as I said before, and be able to show what those things are and give an idea about how you will go about doing this project. What is going to be the structure of it, the process of it, so that when your reader turns the page, they are not surprised by what they find because they've already been given the skeleton. They know where you're heading and they fully expect after the introduction in chapter 1, they're going to find out these things. So please, 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 please do that and get going, because if you wait to do all your literature review and everything else, you'll have it all in a bag, but there'll be nothing written down. I suggest that you write it fairly quickly. It's only 2, 3, 4 pages at the most, but that will set the tone. It will set it up, and then you can send that to your tutor and say, apropos our discussions earlier, this is what I've done. I think this is what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. How does it look for you? I'm confident that it's heading me in the right direction. Is there any advice or any criticism that you want to offer? Because as I said to you in previous videos, the problem is if you get this bit wrong, it's going to go terribly wrong and worse throughout the whole of the process. Next, you get on with it. You've got to do the research. You've got to look at what we already know. You've got to identify a research gap, which is what we don't know, despite all the research that you've done. There is a gap in the knowledge which you have to fill. So this is another good point to get in touch with your tutor. What are these gaps that we have? How do you think, in terms of methodology, go see my video again, how do you think in terms of methodology you can go out and get this information? If you're designing a set of questions to ask during interviews, if you're designing a questionnaire to send out to people or an online survey, this point might be another good point to get back in touch with your academic tutor, because they should be able to look at it and think, yeah, this looks fine. This should get the student the information they need. Or one might look at it and think, really? Are you sure you're getting enough information to be able to identify the content that will fill these research gaps? What about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? Once you've done your research, it's too late. You can't go back to everybody and ask them the same questions again, or, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you this. So before you go out, please, please, please,